hardened. A child's introduction to historical materialism. Father could not contain himself. What I had witnessed, he explained, was not a mere great transition, as with the tin that melted, but a great transformation. True, copper had facilitated our deliverance from prehistory. Its ability to alloy with arsenic and tin to make the harder metal bronze gave the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians and the Achaeans new technologies, including new plows, axes and irrigation, allowing them ultimately to produce the large agricultural surpluses that funded the construction of splendid temples and murderous armies. But for history to accelerate sufficiently to bring about what we now call civilization, humanity needed something much harder still than bronze. It needed its plows, its hammers, and its metal structures to have the hardness of my sword's tip. It needed to learn the trick I had seen in our living room, how to transform soft iron into hardened steel by baptizing it in cold water. Bronze Age communities that did not learn how to baptize iron perished, he insisted. The swords of their ironclad enemies sliced through their bronze shields. Their plows failed to cultivate the less fertile soils. The metal braces holding together their dams and temples were too weak to fulfill the ambitions of forward-thinking architects. In contrast, communities that mastered the technique, the art of stealing iron, thrived in the fields, on the battlefields, at sea, in commerce, in the arts. Iron's magic underpinned the new role of technology as a driving force that led to civilization and its discontents. Lest I doubted the cultural pertinence of our little experiment and the arrival of the Iron Age, Father explained his earlier reference to poor Polyphemus, the one-eyed giant who, according to Homer, imprisoned Odysseus and his men in a cave, taking his time to devour them one by one. To set them and himself free, Odysseus waited for Polyphemus to fall into a drunken stupor, heated up a wooden stake in the cave's open fire, and aided by his comrades, shoved it in Polyphemus' soul. Remember the sound of the hissing iron? That asked. Well, Homer must have been equally investigated, judging by the verse in the Odyssey that captures the cruel moment. And as when a smith dips a great axe or an adze in cold water and without hissing to temper it, for therefrom comes the strength of iron, even so did I hiss round the stake of olive wood. Odysseus and his contemporaries preceded the Iron Age and could not have known how iron's hissing heralded a molecular hardening of historic significance. But Homer, who lived a couple of centuries after the Trojan War, was a child of the Iron Age, and thus came of age in the midst of the technological and social revolution that steel had wrought. In case I thought Homer was an outlier, that pointed to the lasting influence of iron's magic by quoting Socrates, who 4 centuries later described the soul as hardened like immersed iron. Prehistory gave its place to history, Father said, when bronze displaced stone tools and weapons. Once bronze became widespread, after 4000 BC, powerful civilizations emerged in Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, India, Crete, Mycenae, and elsewhere. But still, history was counted in the millennia. To be counted in the centuries, we had to discover the magic of iron. Once the Iron Age got going, around the 9th century BC, 3 different and remarkable eras emerged in quick succession, within no more than 7 centuries in total: the geometric period, the classical era, and the Hellenistic civilization. From the glacial speeds of the Bronze Age, humanity had been propelled to the breathless developments of the Iron Age. But for a long time, iron and steel remained too difficult to produce, too expensive. Even after the Industrial Revolution, the first steamships were mostly wooden, with steel providing only the essential components: boiler, chimney, joints. Enter another one of my father's great heroes, Henry Bessemer, who invented a technique for producing large quantities of steel cheaply by blowing air through molten pig iron to burn off the impurities. It was then, according to Dad, that history accelerated to speeds with which we are familiar today. Coupled with the taming of electromagnetism, which we owe to another Victorian, James Maxwell, Bessemer's technique gave us the Second Industrial Revolution, the period of rapid technological innovation from 1870 onwards, as distinct from the arrival of the factories earlier that century in the First Industrial Revolution, its wonders and horrors wrapped tightly together. Looking back to those few winter nights of 1966, it is now clear to me that I was being inducted in historical materialism, the method of understanding history as a constant feedback loop between, on the one hand, the way humans transform matter, and on the other, the manner in which human thinking and social relations are transformed in return. Thankfully, Father's historical materialism was nuanced, his enthusiasm for technology tempered by judicious doses of angst about humanity's infinite capacity to mess things up, to turn miraculous technology into living hell. Iron, like all revolutionary technologies, had sped up history. But in which direction? For what purpose? With what effect on us? As Dad explained, from the very start of the Iron Age, there were those who foresaw its tragic consequences. Hesiod was composing poetry at around the same time as Homer. His works and days had a salutary cooling influence on Dad's enthusiasm for iron and, more generally, technology. I wish I did not have to live among the people of the Fifth Age, the Iron Age, but either had died earlier or been born later. For now truly is a generation of iron, who never rest from labor and sorrow by day, or from perishing by night. But notwithstanding the good mingled with their evils, this generation will know no favor for those who keep their oath, or for the just, or for the good. Strength shall be right, the wicked will hurt the worthy, bitter sorrows will be left for us mortals, and there will be no help against evil. According to Hesiod, iron hardened not only our plows, but also our souls. Under its influence, our spirit was hammered and forged in fire. Our brand new desires quenched like the hissing metal in the smith's cauldron. Virtues were tested and values destroyed, just as our bounty burgeoned and our estates expanded. Strength begat new joys, but weariness and injustices too. Zeus would have no choice, Hesiod foretold, but to one day destroy a humanity incapable of restraining its own technologically induced power. My father wanted to disagree with Hesiod. He wanted to believe that we humans could become the masters of our technology, rather than enslave ourselves and one another with it. When Prometheus stole fire, symbolizing the white heat of technology, from Zeus on humanity's behalf, he did so in the hope that it would lighten up our lives without burning down the earth. My father wanted to believe we could make Prometheus proud. From heat to light. An innate optimism was only one reason Dad remained hopeful that humanity would not waste the magical powers he had introduced me to in front of our fireplace. Another was his encounter with the nature of light. One time, as I was removing an iron rod from the fire, Dad asked, "Can you guess what leaves the heated up metal reach your eye so that you can see its red glow?" I had no idea. Happily, I was not alone. For centuries, light had divided the best minds, he said. Some, like Aristotle and James Maxim, thought of light as a kind of disturbance in the ether, a wave that spreads outwards from an initial source, like sound does. Others, such as Democritus and Isaac Newton, pointed out that, unlike sound, light cannot bend around corners, something waves do by their very nature. And thus it must be made of tiny things, of particles traveling in a straight line before hitting our eye's retina. Who was right? My father's life changed, or so he told me, when he read Albert Einstein's answer. They were all right. Light is at once a stream of particles and a series of waves. But how could that be? Particles differ fundamentally from waves. They are located at one point at any particular moment in time. They have momentum, and they move only in a straight line, unless and until something gets in their way. Waves, by contrast, are oscillations of a medium, which is what allows them to turn corners and transport energy in many different directions at once. To prove, as Einstein had done, that light was both particles and waves, was to admit that something can be two utterly contradictory things at once. For Dad, the dual nature of light was the gateway to recognizing the essential dualism underlying all of nature, and also in society. If light could be two very different things at once, he wondered in a letter he wrote as a young man to his mother. If matter is energy, and energy matter, as Einstein had also discovered, why must we cast light either in black and white terms, or even worse, in some shade of grey? By the time I was 12 or 13, it was clear to me, from our ongoing conversations, that Dad's love for iron's magic, technology, and for Einstein's physics, the contradictory duality of all things, had something to do with his left-wing politics, for which he had spent several years in prison camps. My hunch was confirmed when I came across the text of a speech delivered by the same person who had first formulated the notion of historical materialism. 12 or 13, it was clear to me, from our ongoing conversations, that Dad's love for iron's magic, technology, and for Einstein's physics, the contradictory duality of all things, had something to do with his left-wing politics, for which he had spent several years in prison camps. My hunch was confirmed when I came across the text of a speech delivered by the same person who had first formulated the notion of historical materialism, Karl Marx. It was as if Dad had been speaking the words. In our days, everything seems pregnant with its contrary. Machinery, gifted with a wonderful power of shortening and fructifying human labor, we behold starving and overworking it. The newfangled sources of wealth, by some strange, weird spell, are turned into sources of want. The victories of art seem bought by the loss of character. The power to shorten human labor and make it fruitful resulted from the great transformation of matter Father had been so keen to demonstrate for my benefit. Iron turning to steel in our fireplace, heat turning to kinetic energy in James Watt's miraculous fire engine, the minor miracles occurring within the telegraph's magnets and cables. But ever since Hesiod's Fifth Age, it was a power pregnant with its opposite as well. The power to starve and to overwork, to turn a source of wealth into a source of want. The link between father's twin devotions, furnaces, metallurgy, and technology in general on the one hand, and to his politics on the other, became impossible to miss when I first read the Communist Manifesto. In particular, the line, "All that is solid melts into air, all that is holy is profaned, and man is at last compelled to face with sober senses his real conditions of life and his relations with his kind." It brought back the memory of his childlike enthusiasm at the sight of melting metal in front of our fireplace, or far more spectacularly, at a steel plant whose quality control department directed, and where temperatures were high enough for iron literally to melt into air. But unlike Hesiod, or indeed the moralists of our own era, Dad did not feel he had to take sides to be either a technophobe or a tech enthusiast. If light can have two contradictory natures, and if all of nature rests on a binary opposition, then hardened iron, steam engines, and network computers could also be simultaneously potential liberators and enslavers. And so it is up to us, collectively, to determine which of the two it will be. That's where politics comes in. A most peculiar introduction to capitalism. Leftists usually become radicalized in reaction to the vile injustices and mind-numbing inequality capitalism generates. Not so in my case. Sure, growing up in the midst of a fascist dictatorship played its role. But my leftism had far more esoteric origins, a sensitivity given to me by my father to the duality of things. Well before I read a word that Marx or any other economist had written, I thought I could discern several dualities buried deep in the foundation of our societies. My first inkling of such a duality hit me one evening when Mom complained to Dad that at the fertilizer factory where she worked as a chemist, she got paid for her time, but never for her enthusiasm. "My wage is crap because my time is cheap," she said. "My passion to get the right results, the bosses get for free." Soon after, she resigned and got herself a job as a biochemist at a public hospital. A few months into the new job, she told us happily, "At least at the hospital, I love that my efforts benefit patients, even if I'm as invisible to them as I used to be to the factory owners." Those words stuck with me. Mum had inadvertently introduced me to the duality of waged labor. The wage she was paid for her time and formal skills, her certificate and degrees, reflected the exchange value of the hours she spent at work. But that's not what injected true value into whatever was being manufactured in her workplace. It added to what was produced at the factory or the hospital through her effort, enthusiasm, application, even flair, none of which were remunerated. It is like going to watch a movie at the cinema. The ticket price you pay reflects the movie's exchange value. But that's quite separate from the pleasure it gives you, which you might call the experiential value. In the same way, labor is split between commodity labor, Mom's time, bought by her wage, and experiential labor, the effort, passion, and flair she put into her work. When in time I did come to read Marx, I vividly recall how excited I was to discover that thanks to my father's fireside lessons and my mom's explanation, I had stumbled upon one of the great economist's central principles. In the world we take for granted today, labor seems like any other commodity. Desperate to make a living, people promote their skills like vendors advertising their wares. They accept a market-determined price, the wage for their labor, which reflects its exchange value. In other words, what it is worth compared to other exchangeable commodities. This is commodity labor. However, as we have seen, unlike soap powder, potatoes, or iPhones, which are nothing but commodities, labor is something else besides. To illustrate labor's second nature, the experiential labor that my mother first alerted me to, consider the brilliant idea conjured up by a group of brainstorming architects employed by a multinational construction firm, or the positive vibes a waiter emits on the restaurant floor, or a teacher's tear of joy when a challenged pupil solves a difficult maths problem. None of these can ever be truly commodified. Why? Because no monetary reward can prompt a moment of true inspiration. No genuine smile can be bought. No authentic tear can be shed for a price. In fact, any attempt to do so would immediately negate them. Indeed, bosses who try to quantify, price, or commodify experiential labor will sound like the fool who yells at you, "Be spontaneous." What I call experiential labor, the part which can never be sold, Marx called simply labor. And what I have labeled commodity labor, Marx defined as laboring power. But the idea is the same. What a working man sells is not directly his labor, but his laboring power, the temporary disposal of which he makes over to the capitalist. Imagine my joy, then, when I discovered that based on labor's two natures, Marx had erected a whole theory of capitalism. For herein lies capitalism's secret. The uncommodifiable sweat, effort, inspiration, goodwill, care, and tears of employees are what breathe exchange value into the commodities that employers then flog to eager customers. This is actually what makes the building or restaurant or school desirable. One may protest that there is many a factory populated by uninspired, joyless, robotic workers, producing tin cans or gadgets worth more than the cost of paying the workers. True, but this happens only because employers cannot buy the effort put in by unskilled, minded laborers. They can only buy their time, during which to pressurize them in a variety of ways to work hard and to sweat. The point here is that This blue-collar sweat, exactly like the waged architect's flair, can never be directly bought or sold. This is indeed the secret power of employers. To extract any surplus, either from highly skilled or from uninspired, repetitive, robotic work, they must pay for their workers' time, commodity labor, but cannot actually buy their sweat or flair, experiential labor. You might think it extremely frustrating to employers that they cannot buy the architect's eureka moment, the waiter's spontaneous smile, the teacher's tear directly, without which their employees' work produces no value. On the contrary, employers resemble the customer who bought a jacket for $1,000 only to find $2,000 sewn in its lining. Indeed, if they don't, they go bust. When I first encountered this revelatory explanation of capitalism's secret, I found it captivating. To think that capitalists owe their profits to an inability, to the impossibility of buying experiential labor directly. And yet, what a boon to suffer from such an incapacity. For it is ultimately they who pocket the difference between the exchange value they pay employees in exchange for their commodity labor wages, and the exchange value of the commodities created thanks to their experiential labor. In other words, labor's dual nature is what gives rise to profit. It is not just labor that has a dual nature. The dominant propaganda today, and while I was growing up, is that profit is the price or reward of a thing called capital. And that people who have capital, such as tools, raw materials, money, anything that can be used to produce saleable goods, make a profit by deploying it. In the same way a worker makes a wage by deploying her labor. But the conclusion that profit results from labor's contradictory two natures led me to reject this notion too. Again, even before I had read Marx, and thanks to paying attention to Mom and Dad, the more I thought of capital, the more convinced I became that like light and labor, it too featured two natures. One is commodity capital, for example a fishing rod, a tractor, a company server, or any good that is produced to be used in the production of other commodities. Capital's second nature, however, is nothing like commodities. Suppose I discover that I possess tools you need in order to produce the stuff of your family's survival, such as the aforementioned fishing rod, tractor, server. Suddenly, I have acquired the power to make you do things, for example, to work for me, in exchange for the use of my tools. Capital, in short, is both a thing, commodity capital, and a force, power capital, just as labor is split between commodity labor and experiential labor. By the time I began reading Marx, I could not help but filter his words through the lens given to me by my mom's work dysphoria and my dad's.
Yeah, one of my friends who's a marketing, like econ professor and University of West Florida, he told me I should read this or listen to it, whatever. But I guess this guy's arguing. Wow, can you hear that? My daughter's like cussing somebody out on Overwatch. I guess he's arguing that like capitalism is like we've already entered the post-capitalist era, and it's kind of crazy because it's kind of like Dune or something, you know, like I always thought like Frank Herbert had some kind of insight into human nature and like making his universe one where like we're basically past like these ideas of experimenting with, you know, like democratic liberal democracies and stuff. It's like reverted to feudalism basically, and it's kind of what this guy's talking about, at least from like the sense that I can get of the description and everything, is that he's saying that he calls it techno-feudalism. That's the title of the book. You know, it's like we're entering into an area of like feudalist rule again, but it's like by these kind of like tech groups or something. I don't know. I don't know the details yet. That's what I'm trying to find out. Right now, he's just going through like a bunch of like kind of history background and like basic stuff that, you know, we probably already kind of know about. Yeah, he was like talking about just his personal history with his dad and his education and like the things that his dad was into as far as like science and philosophy like political ideas and everything. She brought us a fish. Wait, what? Oh, shoot. Oh well. Yeah, basically, yeah. It was kind of cool. He was kind of saying that, like, you know, most people get, like, radicalized into leftism by, you know, just, like, witnessing the horrors of capitalism, like the inequality and stuff, or, like, by exposure to some kind of left-wing ideology or whatever. And he was saying for him it was different. He was already kind of, like, primed for it or something by his dad's like more deep philosophical ideas about like duality and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it seems interesting so far. I mean, it seems kind of like so far he's just like rehashing, but the idea of the book seems interesting. Look at this. I gave her a shotgun. I don't know how much you've seen of this game yet, but it's like you get this little
Inspiration from the great 20th century
you
physicist.
get that little like AI
Delighted
guy
as I was by the dualities
who
I
can
was
help you out
seeing,
with stuff, and then
deep down I
that
wondered
girl's like a
what
mutant,
Einstein
but
would have made of my wild extrapolations from his theory of light,
depending on like
or
how you
rather,
interact with her, she
from
can
my puny
become
grasp
one of your
of it,
friends or something.
to the essence of capitalism.
Neither one of them talk though.
Had my father inadvertently misrepresented Einstein, prompting my imagination to run away at a
You watch,
tangent
like, the
thanks to a
story of it or
flimsy
whatever?
and perhaps false metaphor? Many
Or, like,
years later,
gameplay of
I
it.
chanced upon this sentence,
Or both.
written by Einstein. It is important to understand that even in theory, the payment of the worker is not determined by the value of his product. It appeared in an article entitled "Why Socialism?", published in May 1949. Reading it, I breathed a sigh of relief. No, I had not been taking liberties with Einstein's insights after all. He too believed that capitalism's essence was the splitting of labor into two incongruous natures. An equally odd introduction to money. Uncle Albert, as father used to refer to Einstein on occasion, was not finished with my education regarding capitalism. Having opened my eyes to the dual nature of both labor and capital, he guided me to the dual nature of money, through an even more circuitous path involving a certain John Maynard Keynes. In 1905, the 26-year-old Einstein found the guts to tell a deeply skeptical world that light was a continuous field of waves made up of particle-like things, and moreover, that energy and matter were essentially one thing, linked by history's most famous equation, E equals mc squared. In other words, a body's energy content is equal to its mass times the speed of light multiplied by itself. A decade later, Einstein extended this special theory of relativity to elucidate one of the greatest of puzzles, gravity. The general theory of relativity that resulted was not for the faint-hearted. To grasp it, we first had to embrace a mindset that rejected what our senses told us. If you want to understand gravity, Einstein explained, you need to stop thinking of space as a box that the universe comes in. Matter and energy, operating as one, mold the contours of space and shape the flow of time. The only way to wrap our minds around space and time, or matter
like
and
body
energy,
parts everywhere,
is to think of them as partners, locked in the most intimate, insoluble embrace. Gravity is what we feel as we traverse the shortest path through this four-dimensional space-time. That our brains find it hard to grasp the reality unveiled by Einstein's general theory of relativity is unsurprising. We evolved on the surface of a planet that is minuscule in comparison to the universe out there. In our limited realm, we can get by quite nicely with our senses' helpful illusions. For instance, the belief that the grass is green, straight lines exist, or that time is constant and independent of our motion. These beliefs are false and yet helpful to the extent that they enable our architects to design safe buildings and our watchers to coordinate our meetings at pre-agreed points in time. When playing pool, as the cue ball strikes a colored ball, we become convinced of a clear causal effect.
Winter cycle.
But were we to rely on these illusions to travel beyond our planet, to the macrocosm out there, we would be literally lost in space. Equally, when we peer deep into the world of the subatomic particles that comprise our own body, or the chair we're sitting on, even the link between cause and effect vanishes. What does any of this have to do with money? The title of the most famous economics book of the 20th century is The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. Published in 1936, it was written by John Maynard Keynes in order to explain why capitalism was failing to recover from the Great Depression. And the allusion to Einstein's general theory was intentional. Keynes, who had met Einstein and knew of his work, chose it so as to herald a complete break from conventional economics. A break as clean and decisive as that of Einstein's from classical physics. Of his fellow economists, who insisted that money ought to be understood as another commodity. Keynes once said that they resemble Euclidean geometers in a non-Euclidean world, again confirming in no uncertain terms Einstein's influence. Conventional economic thinking about money was damaging humanity, Keynes thought. Economists resembled spacecraft designers disastrously relying on Euclid, not Einstein. They were using illusions which, while helpful in the microcosm of a single market, for example, the market for potatoes, where a fall in the price can usually be relied upon to boost sales, were catastrophic when applied to the economy at large, the macroeconomy, where a fall in the price of money, the interest rate, may never boost money's flows in the form of investment and employment. In the same way that Einstein had ended our illusion that time stands outside and apart from space, Keynes wanted to stop us thinking of money as a thing, as simply another commodity that stands outside and apart from our other activities in markets and workplaces. Today, we are bombarded with a phantasmagoria of idiocies about money. Clueless politicians invoke penny-pinching metaphors to justify self-defeating austerity.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Central bankers facing both inflation and deflation resemble the proverbial ass, both thirsty and hungry, who collapses because it can't decide whether to drink or to eat first. Crypto enthusiasts invite us to fix the world by embracing the ultimate money commodity form, Bitcoin and its various offspring. Big tech is creating its own digital money with which to lure us deeper into its poisonous web of platforms. I can think of no better defense in the face of this orchestrated obfuscation than Keynes's Einstein-derived advice.
Maybe this is how he's gonna
Stop thinking about money as something separate from what we do with it at work, during play, in every nook and cranny of our social universe. Yes, money is a thing, a commodity like any other. But it is also something much bigger than that. It is above all else a reflection of our relation to one another and to our technologies. For instance, the means and the ways in which we transform matter. Or, as Marx put it poetically, money is the alienated ability of mankind. That which I am unable to do as a man, and of which therefore all my individual essential powers are incapable, I'm able to do by means of money. Money thus turns each of these powers into something which in itself it is not. Turns it, that is, into its contrary. Free to choose or to lose. In early 2015, a historical accident made me Greece's finance minister. Given my mandate to clash with some of the most powerful people and institutions in the world, the international press peered into my articles, books and lectures for clues of what to expect. They were baffled by my claim to be a libertarian Marxist, a self-description that was immediately derided by several libertarians and most Marxists. When one of the ruder interviewers asked after the source of my obvious confusion, I jokingly replied, my parents. Joking aside, father was, at least indirectly, responsible for another crucial component of my political education. my inability to see how one could genuinely cherish freedom and tolerate capitalism, or vice versa, how one could be both illiberal and left-wing. Between them, he and my feminist mother bequeathed me a perspective diagonally opposed to what has become, sadly, conventional fallacy. That capitalism is about freedom, efficiency, and democracy, while socialism turns on justice, equality, and statism.
What am I saying?
In fact, from the very start, the left was all about emancipation. During the feudal era, which became properly entrenched across Europe in the 12th century, economic life involved no economic choices. If you were born into the landed gentry, it would never cost money to sell your ancestors' land. And if you were born a serf, you were compelled to toil the land on the landowner's behalf, free of any illusion that one day you might own land yourself. In short, neither land nor labor power was a commodity. They had no market price. The vast majority of the time, ownership of them changed only through wars of conquest, or royal decree, or as a result of some catastrophe. Then, in the 18th century, something remarkable happened. Because of advances in shipping and navigation, international trade in things like wool, linen, silk, and spices made them lucrative, thus giving British landlords an idea. Why not evict en masse the serfs from the land that produced worthless turnips, and replace them with sheep, whose backs produced precious wool for international markets? The peasants' eviction, which we now remember as the enclosures, for it involved fencing them off from the land their ancestors had toiled for centuries, gave the majority of people something they had lost at the time that agriculture was invented: choice. Landlords could choose to lease land for a price reflecting the amount of wool produced. The evicted serfs could choose to offer the labor for wage. Of course, in reality, being free to choose was no different from being free to lose. Former serfs who refused squalid work for a pitiful wage starved to death. Proud aristocrats who refused to go along with the commodification of their land went bankrupt. As feudalism receded, economic choice arrived, but was as free as the one offered by a mafioso who smilingly tells you, I shall make you an offer you cannot refuse. By the middle of the 19th century, the thinking of Marx and other foundational left-wing thinkers was all about freeing us. Specifically in this era, it was about freeing us from a Dr. Frankenstein-like failure to control our creations, not least the machines of the Industrial Revolution. In the ageless words of the Communist Manifesto, a society that has conjured up such gigantic means of production and of exchange is like the sorcerer who is no longer able to control the powers of the netherworld whom he has called up by his spells. For over a century, the left was concerned primarily with deliverance from self-inflicted unfreedom, which is why it was so fundamentally aligned with the anti-slavery movement, the suffragettes, groups sheltering persecuted Jews in the 1930s and the 1940s, black liberation organizations in the 1950s and 60s, the first gay and lesbian protesters in the streets of San Francisco, Sydney, and London in the 1970s. So how did we get to the situation today, where libertarian Marxist sounds like a joke? The answer is that sometime in the 20th century, the left traded freedom for other things. In the East, from Russia, China, Cambodia, and Vietnam, the quest for emancipation was swapped for a totalitarian egalitarianism. In the West, liberty was left to its enemies, abandoned in exchange for an ill-defined notion of fairness. The moment people believed they had to choose between freedom and fairness, between an iniquitous democracy and miserable state-imposed egalitarianism, it was game over for the left. On Boxing Day in 1991, I was visiting Athens to spend a few days with my parents. As we chatted over dinner in front of that in the West, liberty was left to its enemies, abandoned in exchange for an ill-defined notion of fairness. The moment people believed they had to choose between freedom and fairness, between an iniquitous democracy and miserable state-imposed egalitarianism, it was game over for the left. On Boxing Day in 1991, I was visiting Athens to spend a few days with my parents. As we chatted over dinner in front of that same red brick fireplace, The red flag was being lowered above the Kremlin. Thanks to Dad's communist past and Mom's social democratic leanings, they shared a common mood. They knew that, on that very night, history was marking not just the demise of the Soviet Union, but also the end of the social democratic dream of a mixed economy in which government provided public goods while the private sector produced plentiful goodies to satisfy our whims. All in all, a civilized form of capitalism where inequality and exploitation were kept in check in the context of a politically mediated truce between the owners of capital and those who had nothing to sell but their labor. Circumspect, though not glum, the three of us agreed we were witnessing a defeat made inevitable once our side had lost the conviction that capitalism was iniquitous because it was inefficient, and it was unjust because it was illiberal, that it was chaotic because it was irrational. Falling back to basics, I asked Mom and Dad what freedom meant to them. Mother replied, the ability to choose your partners and your projects. Father's reply was similar. Time to read, to experiment, and to write. Whatever your definition might be, dear listener, being free to lose in a variety of soul-crushing ways can't be it. Father's question.
That's true.
Almost everyone today takes to capitalism as fish take to water, without even noticing it is there, treating it as the invisible, irreplaceable, natural ether we move through. As Frederick Jameson famously put it, people find it easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. For my father's generation of leftists, however, there was a brief moment in the mid to late 1940s when the end of capitalism seemed only a matter of a few years, if not months. But then one thing led to another, and capitalism's demise shifted further and further into the future until, after 1991, it disappeared beyond the horizon. Being of the generation who had believed that capitalism was transitory, Dad continued to contemplate capitalism's expiry even after he had concluded he would not live to see it. Nevertheless, a decade or so after our fireside experiments, with a dream of socialism in deep recession, and while I dived into the works of the political economists, Father increasingly immersed himself in the study of ancient technology. Every now and then, feeling he could guiltlessly leave to me the exploration of capitalism's mysteries while he relished the unalloyed joys of archaeometry, he would speculate on how capitalism might one day end, and what would replace it. His wish was that it would not die with a bang, because banks had the tendency to cull good people in awful numbers, that instead socialist islands might spring up spontaneously in our vast capitalist archipelago, and that they would expand gradually, eventually forming a continent on which technologically advanced commons would prevail.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been
In 1987, he sought my help to set up his first desktop computer, a glorified typewriter he called it, but with an impressive on-screen editing facility. Imagine how many more volumes Marx's complete works would consist of if the bearded one had owned one of these, he joked. As if to prove the point, he used it over the years that followed to churn out voluminous papers and books on the interplay between the ancient Greeks' technology and literature. 6 years on, in 1993, I arrived at the Paleophallira home with a clunky early modem to connect his computer to the fledgling internet. This is a game changer, he said. Struggling to dial up a woefully slow Greek internet provider, he asked me the killer question that ultimately inspired this audiobook. Now that computers speak to each other, will this network make capitalism impossible to overthrow? Or might it finally reveal its Achilles heel? Caught up in my own projects and dramas, I never got around to answering Father's question. When I finally decided I had an answer for him, Dad was already 95 and finding it hard to follow my musings. And so here I am, a few years later, only a few weeks after his passing, composing my answer, belatedly, but I hope not in vain. Chapter 2. Capitalism's Metamorphosis. Dad, it was capitalism's Achilles heel after all. The digitally networked technologies that capitalism spawned proved its comeuppance. The result? Humanity is now being taken over by something that I can only describe as a technologically advanced form of feudalism. A technofeudalism that is certainly not what we had hoped would supersede capitalism. I can tell you're puzzled, Dad. Wherever we look today, capital is triumphant. New monuments to its power spring up everywhere. Physical ones in our cities and across our landscapes.
Oh,
Digital
shit.
ones on our screens and in our hands.
But like,
Meanwhile, the capital poor
can I put
sink
this
deeper
one?
into precarity,
No?
and our democracies bend their knee to
Oh,
capital's will. So how dare I even imagine that capitalism is on the way out, that it is being taken over? Have I forgotten that nothing strengthens capitalism more than the illusion
Wait.
it is
Oh, is that the
evolving
one I
out of
caught?
existence into something new, a mixed economy, a welfare state, a global village?
Doing?
No, of course I have not forgotten. Metamorphosis is to capitalism what camouflage is to a chameleon. Essence and defense mechanism combined.
Yeah, that's
And
the
yet,
short one.
we're not talking about mere disguises. Several of capitalism's transformations have been epoch-changing. One of those was unfolding at around the time you were educating me to Ion's magic in front of our fireplace. And in fact, to explain what I mean by technofeudalism, I need first to describe in some detail this transformation. Capitalism's latest series of metamorphoses, which is the subject of this chapter. Only then, in the next chapter, will I be able to begin to explain properly what has replaced it. Retrieving the irretrievable. In an episode of Mad Men, the television series on the rise of advertising in
Oh,
the
what'd you
1960s,
miss?
the legendary creative director Don Draper coaches his protege Peggy on how
You want me to rewind it? I don't even know how I can do this. Okay, cool.
to think of Hershey, a chocolate bar that their firm is peddling. Draper's marketing philosophy perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the times. You are the product. You feeling something. Or as James Poniewozik interprets Draper's line in Time magazine, you don't buy a Hershey bar for a couple of ounces of chocolate. You buy it to recapture the feeling of being loved that you knew when your dad bought you one for mowing the lawn. The mass commercialization of nostalgia Draper alludes to marked a turning point for capitalism. While the big issues of the 1960s were the Vietnam War, civil rights, and the institutions that might civilize capitalism, Medicare, food stamps, the welfare state, Draper was putting his finger on a fundamental mutation in its DNA. Efficiently manufacturing things that people crave was no longer enough. Capitalism now involved the skillful manufacture of desire. Capitalism had begun as a relentless drive to put a price on things that once had no price. Common lands, human labor, all the stuff that families once produced for their own consumption, from bread and home-brewed wine to woolly jumpers and various tools. If there was something that humans shared and enjoyed, but which had no price, and mattered to us only for its intrinsic or experiential value, like Granny's handcrafted tablecloth, or a beautiful sunset, or a beguiling song, capitalism found a way to commodify it, to subjugate its experiential value to an exchange value. It was in the nature of the beast. Capitalism is synonymous with the triumph of exchange value because it is the only value that can be crystallized into more capital. Just as the Borg in Star Trek depend on assimilating the biological and technological distinctiveness of other species for their survival, capitalism has taken over planet Earth by assimilating, wherever possible, any experiential value it
Dude, I don't
encounters
know if I'm
into its exchange
I don't
value
know if-
chain.
Other people have done that before, but or if I got it from somewhere else, but I always make that analogy to the Borg. I'm glad they did that because now I know I'm not the only one. It's just so perfect. It makes so much sense.
Having assimilated every resource, crop and artifacted food. Capitalism has since gone on to commodify the airwaves, women's wombs, art, genotypes, asteroids, even space itself. In the process, the experiential value of all things is reduced to a dollar sum, a commercial asset, a tradable contract. And yet, contrary to the Borg's scary greeting, "You will be assimilated, resistance is futile," experiential values resistance has not been in vain. Each time the onslaught of exchange value has overcome its defenses, experiential value has gone underground into the catacombs of our psyche. It is there that Don Draper, or more accurately, the men and women Mad Men is based on, discovered it, retrieved it, and yes, commodified it. In the process, capitalism changed radically. Watching Mad Men, the audience wondered why the firm pays Draper a mint to do what he does. Mostly horizontal on a comfortable couch in his office, he consumes impressive quantities of bourbon, has a series of breakdowns, behaves erratically and unprofessionally, and when he does deign to share what he's thinking, usually offers only cryptic and disjointed thoughts. But just when you expect him to self-destruct or get fired, he comes up with magical ways of reimagining anything, from mediocre chocolate and humdrum steel products to second-rate hamburger restaurant chains, in ways that make them emotionally resonant and intensely desirable. In both aspects of his behavior, Draper captures the essence of capitalism's post-war transformation, the discovery of a new market, namely the market for our attention, grafted onto a shiny new industrial structure, but all within a system that remains fully reliant on labor's dual nature.
I didn't either.
For the dual nature of Draper's labor is writ large in every episode of Mad Men.
I've seen
His
clips and
bosses
stuff
would
of
love
it,
to be
but
able to
I've
purchase his
never watched the
ideas
show itself.
without having to tolerate him lounging around the office
Like,
half
I didn't
drunk.
even know that's what his job
In the
was.
language of the previous chapter, they would jump at the opportunity to buy Draper's experiential labor directly. Only they couldn't, even if he wanted to sell it to them. Instead, they are forced to buy his commodity labor, in other words, his time and potential, in the hope that during his inebriated days, his genius will spontaneously deliver the famed Draper magic. And when he does, their immense profits confirm once again that capital is born out of the capitalist's inability to buy experiential labor directly. Draper's genius, meanwhile, is to grasp and to confront the paradox of commodification. Yes, capitalism must commodify everything it touches, but at the same time, high exchange value, and thus serious profit, depends on failing to do so fully. If it is to avoid the fate of a school of predators that devours its prey so efficiently that it starves to death, capitalism relies on there being an endless supply of experiential values for its exchange values to trounce and cannibalize. It must always be discovering and commodifying what has so far escaped it.
Oh, shit.
Smart advertisers do exactly that. They tap into emotions that have previously escaped commodification in order to capture our attention. And then they sell our attention to an entity whose business is to commodify whatever experiential value was hiding in our soul, fleeing commodification. With his Hershey bar speech, Draper lays bare a crucial aspect of how, soon after the war, capitalism reached its golden age. How could the profits keep flowing once everything has seemingly been commodified already? Draper's answer: through the triggering of uncommodified emotions deep inside us. Thus, a Hershey bar becomes the simulacrum of a dead father's caress. Bethlehem steel is rebranded as the spirit of the American polis, with a steel product symbolizing the new world's own Iron Age. When Draper and Peggy visit a Burger Chef outlet, they discern the possibility of a television advertisement that promotes the chain as an opportunity for families to be reunited around its plastic tables, away from the family home, where togetherness is no longer possible because everybody's attention has been arrested by the television. So what did capitalism look like before this great transformation occurred? And how did this transformation take place? Technostructure. Another way to ask the same question would be, where did Sterling, Cooper and Partners, Draper's fictional firm, find the money or willingness to treat him like an academic? to pay him good money to think deeply at the pace of his choosing. Capitalism's early advocates would have been perplexed. Their idea of entrepreneurship took the form of parsimonious bakers, butchers, and brewers, eagerly striving to satisfy their customers' basic needs by working hard, thinking on their feet, economizing on everything, squeezing the last drop of exchange value out of any raw materials they could lay their hands on. What changed that meant a character like Draper could become an icon of our enterprise culture? I think you will like my answer, Dad.
I mean, some of these guys
Electromagnetism.
talk about this, though, like,
Once James
Frederick
Clark
Jameson,
Max
who he was talking
had
about
written
earlier,
down the
says-
equations linking electrical
calls it
current to
post-Fordism.
magnetic force, it was only a matter of time before someone like Thomas Edison would turn them into the electricity and telegraph grids that ultimately begot the networked, top-down mega corporations we know today, pushing the bakers, butchers, and brewers of early capitalism to the sidelines. The problem was that none of capitalism's early institutions, specifically its banks and share markets, were ready for such corporate enterprise. Simply put, the banks were too small and too fragile, and the share markets too thin, too illiquid, to provide the kind of funds Edison needed to build his famous Pearl Street power station, let alone the rest of his electricity grid. To produce the rivers of credit necessary to fund the Edisons, the Westinghouses, and the Fords of early 20th century capitalism, small banks merged to form large ones and lent either to the industrialists directly or to speculators eager to buy shares in the new corporations. That's how electromagnetism transformed capitalism. While its grids would go on to power mega firms,
Why is it doing
and
that?
its megawatts translated into mega profits, it also created the first mega debts in the form of vast overdraft facilities of the Edisons, the Westinghouses, and the Fords. And it led to the emergence of big finance, which grew up alongside big business in order to lend it monies borrowed effectively from the future, from profits not yet realized, but which big business promised to deliver. These wages on future profits funded not only the construction of big businesses' grids and production lines, but an almighty froth of speculation
Okay.
as well. Parsimony was
Hold on.
out, and largesse became the new virtue. The Victorian belief that firms should be small and powerless so that competition could perform its magic of keeping entrepreneurs honest was replaced by the creed that what is good for big business is good for America. The jazz age swept restraint away.
Okay.
Debt's dirty name was cleansed in the torrents of
where did it go,
anticipated
man?
profits.
Okay.
Caution was thrown to the winds of credit. Within a decade, electromagnetism had sparked the roaring 20s,
Come here,
whose
dude.
inevitable
Where you going?
heart-wrenching crash came in 1929, the year the grapes of wrath began to fill
Oh
and
my
grow
gosh,
heavy for the
really,
vintage.
dude?
Whether one believes that Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal
Where's
ended the
that
Great
card at?
Depression, or that it was the war that did it, one thing is clear. The New Deal also changed global capitalism profoundly. The New Deal's public works projects, its social welfare programs, and above all,
This is what
its
you were
public
talking about
finance
yesterday.
instruments, together with stringent controls over what bankers could get away with, constituted a full-on dress rehearsal for the war economy. For immediately after the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor brought the United States into the Second World War, the United States government began to emulate the Soviet one. It told factory owners how much to produce and to what specifications,
Yeah,
from aircraft carriers to processed food.
that's true, yeah.
It then employed a price czar, the economist John Kenneth Galbraith, whose job literally was to decide the price of everything, to fend off inflation, and to ensure a smooth economic transition from wartime to peacetime. It is no exaggeration to say that American capitalism was run according to Soviet planning principles, with the important exception that the network factories remained under the private ownership of big business. Under President Roosevelt, the United States government's deal with big business was simple. They would produce what was necessary to win the war, and in exchange, the state would reward them with 4 incredible gifts. First, state-guaranteed sales, translating into state-guaranteed profits. Second, freedom from competition, since prices were fixed by government. Third, huge government-funded scientific research, for instance, the Manhattan Project, jet propulsion, that provided big business with wonderful new innovations and a pool of highly skilled scientific personnel to recruit from during and after the war. And fourth, a patriotic aura to help rinse off the stench of corporate greed that clung to them after the crash of 1929 and make them over as heroic enterprises that helped America win the war. The war economy experiment was an unqualified success. Production quadrupled in less than 5 years. Inflation was kept on a leash, unlike what had happened during the previous World War. Unemployment disappeared and was kept at bay even after the soldiers, sailors, and airmen returned from the front. To big business, it was a dream come true that compensated them handsomely for the subjugation of big finance to the government's plans and strictures. Beneath the surface, however, the heat of war had transformed American capitalism at a molecular level, just as the heat of our fireplace had transformed iron into steel. By the war's end, American capitalism was unrecognizable. Business and government had become profoundly entwined. Indeed, the revolving doors between government departments and corporations saw to it that the same crowd of mathematicians, scientists, analysts, and professional managers populated them both. The heroic entrepreneur at the helm of the corporation and the democratically elected politician at the head of the government had both been usurped by this new private-public decision-making network, whose values and priorities, indeed its survival, boiled down to one thing: the survival and growth of the conglomerates now that the war, with its infinite demand for stuff and technologies, was over. Galbraith called this nexus the technostructure. Profitability remained essential for the army of technicians and influence-wielding employees making up the technostructure.
It does.
Nevertheless, profit was no longer their top priority. As with all bureaucracies, their primary goal was to keep their underlings employed and busy. This meant they had not merely to avoid the shrinking of their conglomerates at the war's end, but to grow. With the war behind them, one question kept the good folks of the technostructure up at night. If the government would no longer guarantee sales and prices, where would they find enough customers ready and willing to pay for all the chocolate bars, cars, and washing machines that they were planning to manufacture using the capacity hitherto dedicated to producing bullets, machine guns, and flamethrowers? The new dealers in government took it upon themselves to help the technostructure secure foreign customers, which, as we shall see, triggered another of the great metamorphoses of 20th century capitalism.
My MEGABASE, dude.
But as for domestic customers, that's where Don Draper came in. His stock in trade, opening the technostructure's eyes to the boundless possibilities of founding a new market for our attention on a bed of raw emotion. The technostructure had the manufacture of things fully under its control. With Draper's help, it could now look forward to manufacturing the necessary desire for them. Paying Draper a large salary to lounge around for most of the working day was a small price to pay for such an extraordinary power. Attention markets and the Soviets' revenge. On a cold January day in 1903, in front of a large audience at Coney Island's Luna Park, Thomas Edison used alternating current to electrocute to death Topsy, a helpless elephant. His purpose? To draw the public's attention to the deadliness of the type of electricity peddled by George Westinghouse, his competitor. Despite the novel awfulness, nothing significantly new had happened. A powerful man had used the age-old trick of grabbing the public's attention to sell himself and his offerings. From a peacock's feathers to a Roman emperor's triumphal march to the fashion industry of today, competing for others' attention is about as old as sexual reproduction. But it wasn't until the 20th century that the process of attention grabbing was commodified. Once again, it was electromagnetism that achieved this revolutionary feat, not by killing an elephant, but by allowing for the invention of radio and, even more importantly, the television set. At first, radio and television gave big business a headache. It offered them immense opportunities to engage and persuade the masses. But fundamentally, its output, the programs it broadcast, had the properties of a sunset rather than a tin of beans. however much you loved watching I Love Lucy on television, and even if you were prepared to pay good money to watch it, no one had the capacity to make you pay for it, at least not before cable TV was introduced. But this stopped being a problem once they realized that the program was not the commodity. It was the attention of the people watching it. By broadcasting the program for free, they could secure the audience's attention, allowing them then to sell it in the form of advertisement breaks to Draper's clients, who were now so eager to instill new desires in the hearts of the American public. With the birth of commercial television, the technostructure appended a boisterous attention market to its labor market. The dual nature of labor was now coupled with the dual nature of the spectacle. On the one hand, a cultural product with large experiential value but no exchange value, and on the other, the captured attention of viewers with a substantial exchange value but no experiential value. The cultural impact was enormous, but the less visible impact was no less momentous. A new group of experts had been grafted onto the technostructure. Alongside the scientists, analysts, and professional managers, there were now creative types like Draper, as well as the whole raft of strategists and engineers working on new ways to manipulate and commodify our attention. It was another historic transformation. By the early 1960s, the commodities that made real money were no longer the ones that prevailed in some Darwinian struggle for existence within some competitive market. No. The products that adorned every home were the ones that the Drapers and the executives of the conglomerates fashioned together in meetings at the technostructure's skyscraper offices. There, over lots of smoking and drinking, they jointly decided the prices, the quantities, the packages, and even the feelings imparted by capitalism's leading products. Whereas capitalism had come to life by turning feudalism societies with markets into decentralized market societies, the rise of the technostructure transformed American capitalism from a decentralized market society into a centralized economy with markets. It was precisely what the Soviet planners had always hoped to achieve, but failed. And there's the irony. In the 1960s, a decade marked by an ideological and nuclear clash between America and the Soviet Union that almost blew up the world, Soviet planning principles were implemented with remarkable success in the United States. Irony has seldom taken a more effective revenge over earnest ideology. That was as far as the technostructure's domestic customers went, those within the United States of America. What about the rest of the world? It was all very well converting America's factories from manufacturing tanks, ammunition, fighter planes, and aircraft carriers to churning out washing machines, cars, television sets, and passenger jets. The problem was that America's industrial capacity had grown so much during the war that to keep its factories busy and its workers in jobs, they had to produce a lot more stuff than Americans alone could absorb. Drilling new desires into the American consumer could never be enough because there were not enough American middle-class homes to do the necessary consuming. Foreign markets had to be found. The audacious global plan. I remember one evening in 1975, you came home with extraordinary news. 30 drachmas were no longer enough to buy us $1 American, you announced. Not that it made any difference to us, since we had neither the means nor the legal right to buy more than a handful of dollars, but you were anxious that an exchange rate that had stood still since 1957 had just broken down. What did that mean for our future as a family, and for our small country, where the shockwaves caused by grand raptures originating in America usually took a while to hit? Thinking back, your hunch was exactly right. This was indeed a local reverberation of something that originated in the United States, and that augured a violent and this time global metamorphosis of capitalism. The breakdown of the drachma-dollar exchange rate that had so impressed you was a consequence of the downfall 4 years earlier, in August 1971, of the so-called Bretton Woods system. As with the 2008 financial crisis, which took 2 long years to flatten Greece, the collapse of Bretton Woods also took some time to hit us. A German friend once quipped, "If I hear that the end of the world is nigh, I shall immediately move to Greece. Everything takes a couple of years longer over there." Bretton Woods was the audacious global financial system devised by the New Dealers in 1944 whose purpose was noble: to thwart the Great Depression's return after the war had ended. Its strategy, however, was perhaps less so. It aimed to append post-war Europe and Japan to America's gleaming new war economy. The New Dealers knew that once the German armies had been defeated, Europe would lie in ruins, its peoples penniless. So Washington understood that its first task would be to remonetize Europe, literally, to provide them with money to spend in order to get their economies running again. That was easier said than done. With Europe's gold either spent or stolen, its factories and infrastructure turned to rubble, hordes of refugees roaming its highways and byways, the concentration camps still reeking with the stench of humanity's unspeakable cruelty, Europe needed much more than freshly minted paper money. Something had to instill the new notes with value. After all, what gives any currency value but the economy that stands behind it? Only one thing could circumvent the problem: the dollar. The financial project of the Bretton Woods system was bold: to dollarize the currencies of Europe and Japan by linking European currencies and the yen to the dollar with fixed exchange rates. Hence the 30 drachmas to $1 whose demise disturbed you in 1975. In essence, it was a global currency union based on the US dollar. With a mighty US economy standing behind them, the currencies would retain a significant and stable value. Naturally, there had to be limits to how many dollars one could get for one's funny money: Greek drachmas, Italian lire, etc. These limits were known as capital controls, restrictions in the movement of money from one currency to another. They made the life of bankers wonderfully boring by denying them the opportunity to speculate on shifts in the relative value of currencies, which they would otherwise have done by shifting large quantities of money from one currency to another, from one country to another. That was, of course, intentional. Having been burned by the 1929 catastrophe,
Hey,
the
what's
New
up,
Dealers
Pinky?
wanted bankers to live in a
It's going
straitjacket
good.
of capital controls and almost
Just
fixed
building this
interest rates,
MEGABASE.
with only tiny wiggle
Once it
room
gets light
of
outside, I'll let
1%
you see
here
it.
or there.
This is getting big.
Alongside this bold financial project was a political one. In the East, the New Dealers rewrote the Japanese
been up to?
constitution and oversaw its transformation into a technostructure with Japanese characteristics. In Europe, they guided the foundation of the European Union
Might need
as a
to put some
cartel
floors
of
in there or
heavy
something.
industry centered upon German manufacturing, adapting their technostructure blueprint to European circumstances. To make this happen, they had to rewrite the German constitution and, with promises of handing administrative and political oversight over to Paris, thwart the French ambition
It's just
to
pretty interesting though that
deindustrialize
this guy has
Germany.
so much
This
insight on
dazzling
like
design,
all the European
America's
stuff.
global plan to remake Europe and Japan in the image of its technostructure, led to capitalism's golden age. From the war's end until 1971, America, Europe, and Japan
Oh, that's like a
enjoyed
short
low
one.
unemployment,
Oh shit.
low inflation, high growth, and massively diminished inequality. The New Dealers' job was almost done. And it was done in a way that even the staunchest Republican moguls appreciated, turning to madmen for one more symbolic insight.
It's like an
There is a
audio
scene
book.
where Conrad Hilton, the hotel mogul, shares with Don Draper
It's
his
sped
true
up
ambition,
like a little bit.
which encapsulates the
So
spirit of this
hopefully they
global
don't
plan.
mute
It's
my
my
stream.
purpose in life to bring America to the world, whether they like it or not. You know, we are a force of good, Don.
I don't know if
because we
that
have
stuff's
God.
boring to you, but it's like
Whether the
economics.
scriptwriter meant God as a stand-in for the dollar or not, it is fair to say that American hegemony in this era relied on the almighty power of its currency. The only currency everyone wanted, even if they never
What have
cared
you been
to
up
buy
to? I haven't
anything
talked to you in a
coming from America.
few days or so.
But all this relied on one crucial factor. For the dollar to be the apple of everyone's eye, at the fixed exchange rates the Bretton Woods system guaranteed,
Oh, hold
America
on.
had
Let
to
me
be a surplus amassing
let's see
country,
if I can
meaning
adjust it here.
it had to sell more goods and services to the rest of the world than it imported. Of course, selling goods to the Europeans
there, I
and
turned it
Japanese
down a
was
little
more
bit.
than just a bonus outcome.
I
It was
abandoned
how
you?
the technostructure would secure for itself
Were you streaming
the
or
vast
something?
new markets it needed to sustain its industries and keep its economy growing.
I missed it.
But the whole system also relied on this surplus integrally, for it was what ensured that the dollars printed by the Federal Reserve, America's central bank, and given to the Europeans and to the Japanese, either as loans or aid, would ultimately find their way back to the United States in return for US goods. With every Boeing jet or General Electric washing machine sold to the Europeans, a bundle of dollars would head home back across the Atlantic. And as long as migratory dollars were gravitating back home, the dollar would remain a steal at the given exchange rate, guaranteeing that the Germans, the British, the French, the Japanese, even
what
the
were you
Greeks,
doing?
wanted to get many more dollars for their funny money than the authorities allowed them at the official exchange rate. As long as America was the major
Yeah,
surplus
this looks
nation,
weird, huh? Like it's
Bretton
not
Woods
even.
was safe as houses. And that's why, by the late 1960s, the Bretton Woods system was dead in the water.
I think the whole thing is like that.
Three developments which caused America to lose its trade surplus and become a chronically deficit economy. The first was the escalating Vietnam War, which forced the United States government to spend billions in Southeast Asia on supplies and services for its military. The second was President Lyndon Johnson's attempt to make amends for the ill effects of conscription on working-class America, its black communities in particular. His valiant but expensive Great Society program substantially reduced poverty, but at once.
Is that one?
Lots of imported goods from Japan
that's like
and
a.
Europe
Oh yeah, they're
into the
all
United
like
States.
kind of off a
Lastly,
little bit.
Japan's and Germany's factories surpassed America's, both in terms of quality and efficiency, partly due to the support successive
nice,
US
yeah.
governments had extended
Master
to
ranking
Japan's
up.
and Germany's manufacturing sectors.
Yeah, we were
The
playing
car
First to
industry
Senate
being
yesterday a
enormous.
little bit.
Never too slow to accept reality, Washington killed off its finest creation. On 15 August
Did you kill the pyro
1971,
yet?
President Nixon announced the ejection of Europe and Japan from the dollar zone.
I'm just trying to make a
Bretton
giant
Woods was
base.
dead. The door had been opened to a new and truly dismal phase
Oh shoot,
in
what is
capitalism's
this?
evolution.
And how did it get in? Did I leave the door open?
Mad numbers. In 2002, 30 years after the Nixon shock, humanity's total income approximated $50 trillion. In the same year, finances around the world had wagered $70 trillion on a variety of bets. I remember your eyes popping out when you heard this outrageous number. Like most people, you refused to wrap your mind around it. Used to thinking of money in terms of things that made sense, like tons of steel or the number of hospitals it could build, you could not see how Earth was large enough to contain that $70 trillion number. By 2007, humanity's total
Is he not gonna die?
from $50 to $75 trillion. A decent 33% increase over 5 years. But the sum of bets in the global money market had gone up from 70 to $750 trillion. A rise in excess
He's gotta
of
be-
1,000%.
He's gotta be like almost
Or
dead.
more
He's gotta be
accurately,
dead
it is
soon.
when we agree
Come on,
that the
man.
numbers have gone mad. An arithmetic reflection of
What is
capitalism's
happening?
hubris. How had these mad numbers come about? What drove them? One way to answer this question is technical. It involves a description of financial instruments, such as options or derivatives, the weapons of potential mass financial destruction, as Warren Buffett called them, which were the occasion, if not the
You
cause,
said poor
of the
thing.
immense financial bubble that burst in the calamity of 2008. These instruments, known as options, had been available under Bretton Woods, but it was only once Bretton Woods had died that bankers, liberated from their New Deal chains, were allowed to bet on the stock exchange, first
Man.
with other people's money, and later
I need to drink
with money
something.
effectively conjured from thin air, lent in astronomical sums by the banks to themselves. Conjured from thin air? To be clear, yes. Most people think that banks take Jill savings and lend them to Jack. That's not what banks do. When a bank lends Jack money, it does not go into its vault to check it has enough cash to back the loan.
Yeah, he's talking about this
If it
like
believes
fractional
Jack will return
reserve
the loan
banking
plus
stuff.
everything
Yeah.
else, all the bank needs to do is add to
A lot of
Jack's
people don't know
account the
about
number
this,
of
though.
dollars it lends him. Nothing more than a typewriter or today a few keystrokes on a keyboard are necessary. Now, if the Jacks of the world use their loans judiciously to make enough money to repay the loans plus the interest, all is well.
Okay,
But it
so
is in
what
the
if
nature
we
of banks to accommodate too
instead?
many
What
Jacks
if we?
eager to borrow increasing amounts to keep paying each other more and more, while the banks collect huge profits from funding such a giant Ponzi scheme. Inevitably, this financial house of cards collapses,
Nothing.
at which point the little people are crushed by global capitalism's falling debris,
Nothing.
as witnessed in the aftermath of
What?
1929.
Okay, hold on. What if we
Bretton
do
Woods
this
was
though?
designed to prevent such greed-fueled recklessness from bringing humanity to the brink of another Great Depression.
What if we cut like a little piece
Another
off of
World War
this?
Ever again. But once it was gone, the bankers were free to run amok again. Knowing you,
They put it on
your
top here? No.
habitual risk aversion, and
We'll
your
put it
reluctance to assume that powerful people
Underneath here?
you would find this explanation unsatisfying. If you and I are clever enough to recognize the inherent instability of their financial house of cards, surely the bankers recognized it too. So why were they not terrified of what would happen if their various bets went south? There are a number of reasons. One is that they had developed a new way of profiting from loaning to Jack without depending on Jack's ability or willingness to repay his loan. The trick was to lend to Jack, then immediately splice his loan into tiny pieces of debt and sell these pieces on, inside multiple very complex financial products, to unsuspecting buyers far away, who would themselves repackage and sell them on to somebody else, and so on. This practice lulled Western bankers into a false sense of safety. Jack's loan was no longer their problem. Even if Jack defaulted,
he's going to talk about how we got to the 2008.
No single banker would bear the brunt of it. The risk had been shared and dispersed and thus minimized.
Yeah, I don't know how to level that thing
Having
out.
internalized this belief, they were able to internalize another. That prudence was for wimps. And that smart people like themselves were actually giving capitalism a helpful boost. But by producing
Maybe it
more
needs
and
to...
more
Hold on. What if we take
slicing it
this
up in
one?
smaller and smaller pieces and dispersing it across the planet, they were not minimizing the risk, they were compounding it. Ruin loomed large over the horizon. But financiers were simply unable to imagine that all these tiny pieces of debt on which the West financial system rested...
I need some light down here too. This shit is...
Why?
Man, but it won't let us put one there.
If this was so obvious to us, why did the super smart bankers not consider the high probability of simultaneous defaults of all the pieces of debt issued to the various Jacks going south all at once? To say that the bankers did not see this coming because they were caught up in a whirlwind of unchecked greed is to rephrase the question, not to answer it. Greed was not born in the 1980s. No, something else happened after the Nixon shock killed off Bretton Woods. Something that helped the gambler's madness infect Wall Street, magnifying greed in the process, generating these mad numbers. Whatever that something was, it must have been substantial, judging by its earth-shattering consequence. It shifted capitalist power from the economic sphere, that is from industry and commerce,
oh, it's because it's still not like even.
Bankers. What was it? You will be pleased to hear that the answer, my answer, evokes an ancient myth. The fearless global minotaur. Once upon a time, in the famous maze-like labyrinth of the Cretan king's palace, there lived a creature as fierce as it was fast.
No, it's so dark. This game is so dark.
Comparable only to the fear it inspired far and wide.
But look, like
the minotaur has a
now it's crooked again. Like,
satisfying it was essential to maintaining the peace that
King Minos
had enforced, allowing trade to crisscross the seas, spreading prosperity's benevolent reach to all. Alas,
man, I'm dying
the
here. I need to...
could only be satiated by human flesh. Every now and then, a ship loaded with youngsters sailed from faraway Athens bound for Crete.
What you got going on this weekend, Pinky?
Deliver its human tribute to be devoured by the Minotaur. A gruesome ritual, albeit one that preserved the era's peace and reproduced its prosperity. Millennia later, another Minotaur rose up, surreptitiously, from the ashes of the Bretton Woods system. Its lair, a form of labyrinth, lay deep in the guts of America's economy. It began life as the U.S. trade deficit, the fact that America began to buy more imports from other countries than it sold to them, owing to the Vietnam War, the Great Society, and the expanding
efficiency Is it warm enough up there to go to the beach?
Japanese factories. The tribute it consumed was the rest of the world's exports
like a heat wave across the nation
Asia to be devoured in Middle America's malls. The more the U.S. deficit grew, the greater the Minotaur's appetite for Europe's, and more so, Asia's manufactured goods.
Oh, nice.
However, what gave it strength and global significance? What meant that it ensured the
I guess that's why this guy's not getting logs. It's probably because he's getting murdered out here.
Where the labyrinthine underground tunnels connecting Walmart...
Like these cannibals running around everywhere.
The way it worked was as follows. The new American Minotaur...
I can't keep these doors open either, though, because they'll run in here.
Busy.
And I can't see anything.
Gobbled up everything produced in Japan, and later in China. This kept Europe and Asia peaceful and prosperous for now.
Yeah, it's
In
pretty warm out
return,
here
the
too.
foreign and often the American owners of these distant factories sent their profits, their cash, back to Wall Street to be invested. An additional form of tribute which enriched America's ruling class, despite its deficit. In this way, the global minotaur helped recycle financial
I gotta
capital,
repair
profit,
this.
savings, surplus money, and the rest of the world's net exports.
That mutant was
Nourished on
wrecking
this
it, huh?
constant stream of tributes. It enabled and sustained the post-Bretton Woods global order, much as its Cretan predecessor had preserved Pax Cretana in the mists of prehistory. This was a strategy that lay behind the Nixon shock
Okay.
of 15
Well, I
August
guess we'll just leave that.
1971. And it worked wonders, at least for those who triggered it. You see, the writing had been on the wall for Bretton Woods since the mid to late 1960s. As America's trade surplus began turning into a deficit, finances began anticipating its demise.
Yeah, my brother lives up
They
up
knew
in
that sooner or
Brooklyn.
later, the dollar
He's going
gold
to-
exchange rate
He just told me that he's
artificially
going to
set in
Spain next
1944
month
at a
though,
fixed
because he
$35 per ounce.
I don't know why
Would
Spain,
depreciate.
but
At that point, their stash of dollars
he's
would buy less
gonna.
gold. Naturally, they began eagerly exchanging their dollars for
I don't think
American
he's gonna
gold
watch this.
before
He's
that
not
happened.
watching this.
Had this continued,
But he's gonna propose to his girlfriend over there.
The Nixon shock stopped the rot. The dollar depreciated fast vis-à-vis gold, as anticipated. But curiously, that was the moment the dollar regained its mojo. How? Shortly after the dollar was decoupled from gold.
Yeah, yeah.
Europe's
He did a
currencies were decoupled from the dollar.
he did a really cool
Once
thing.
they
He
lost
made
the
like
fixed
a
exchange rate of the dollar,
copy
the
of this
dollar value
book.
of European and Japanese money began fluctuating wildly.
No, she doesn't know. That's why I was checking to make sure nobody else was watching it. Every once in a while he'll watch. I don't think she ever watches this, but anyways, yeah. Some kind of book that was like significant in her parents' marriage, like that they met each other over. I don't know if it was at the book club or something like that, but he made like a copy of the book that it looks like a real book, but it has the ring inside it. So he's gonna do something with that. But it's crazy because his last girlfriend he was with, she was like super nice, and they were together for it seems like maybe like 3-4 years, and eventually she started, you know, telling him she wanted to have a family and everything, and he was just, I don't know, he didn't feel like it was the right time for him or something, so he split up with her, and then this girl, they've been together maybe like a year. It hadn't been that long, really. But she's pretty cool. I've met her. She's like a performance artist. Oh yeah. That's like my whole family's kind of like that. Us guys are like, my dad was like that, so maybe that's where we got it from. I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy out there. Like I look at these like internet comment sections, and there's just so many dudes that are just like, oh man, their like mentality is so. It's bizarre to me, but you know, like their attitudes towards women are just, I don't know. Well, I don't know why they think like that's functional. Yeah, exactly, immature. Like even like it's like adversarial, you know, like they believe like women are just supposed to be like dominated and submit to them and all this shit, like serve them or whatever, and it's like it's wild. They think that's like the natural order of things or something. Like, man. But yeah, you're right. That's like an immature mindset, in my opinion. Yeah. That's wild. That's wild, Tree. I mean, there's some mess up women out there too, for sure. But, you know. I think if your relationship isn't like a partnership and it's not built on some kind of like two-way communication and like trying to work together, then it's either gonna fail or it's gonna be miserable for somebody. I met a lot of and talked to a lot of women too who they just seem like they like they have to be with some like dickhead guy who's gonna provide for them and like take care of them because they can't do it themselves or something. It's like I think that's like a on the other hand, that's like a immaturity thing also. I always told my girlfriend, her name's Alejandra, like in the beginning, she kind of was going through some stuff when we first met. With her, she was going through a divorce and everything, and she was telling me like, man, I wish like, you know, I could just like have enough money to have a whole new, like get a whole new life and not worry about anything. I was like, man, I really like, I wish I could do that, you know? Like, I wish I could just like wave a magic wand and fix everything for you. But even if, like, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, you know, I wasn't in the position to do that because I feel like no matter what, like if you depend on somebody financially or whatever, like later on it's whatever, maybe you can figure some kind of arrangement out that works or whatever, but I figure I feel like if you start with any kind of dependency on the other person, or either way, for the man or the woman, like if it's emotional or financial or whatever, if you like need that person for something, then you'll be like afraid to lose them, and it just like skews the kind of the whole like dynamics of the relationship. Like I feel like people should be together just because they want to and they like enjoy being with each other, you know, because then you never know if somebody's with you because they want to be, you know, and they like actually enjoy it, not just because they're like getting something that they feel like they need out of it, you know what I mean? Yeah, like codependencies stuff. Yeah, so I told her like I'm glad I can't, you know, like rich guy fix everything for you. It ended up being true. She like took off after that. She started working and like built her whole like catering business, and she's killing it now. I can't wait to retire so I can really focus on building. So I think I have enough. I was telling Tree yesterday. I feel like I have enough kind of bandwidth and like freedom because I'm pretty much like on this road to retirement that I don't really have to. I don't have a lot of responsibility with the military right now, so I think I can get a head start. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to retiring and like building my own thing, you know, like that. I mean, having a pension will be nice, but it's not like it's not gonna let us like live the kind of lifestyle that we want to, you know. And like, I'd really like to build some like you know, like community and philanthropic type of stuff, you know. Yeah, yeah, almost 20 years. Yeah, I'll be next July. Actually, it's like just over 19, so next July will be 20 years. Man, this thing's all kinds of crooked, dude. Like, what is that? What is Look, what is this? Why is it like this? Maybe I can I like chop well, let me see if I can fix this. The Navy. Yeah, it's wild. Like, I'm probably one of the most chill, like, anti-authoritarian, like, well, I'm definitely anti-abuse of authority. I'm like so it's like, I don't know, the military, maybe it wasn't the right place for me. I was kind of a black sheep. What do you mean? Like with music and stuff, or what? Man, this thing is never gonna be straight, I don't think. Like, that just ruined it even worse. Oh yeah, but he doesn't have this one. This is the Sons of the Forest. The the one that's on PC only right now. Like, hopefully it comes out for PlayStation soon, but yeah, the building's a little bit different in this game. Like, these things you can't like set a blueprint for, you know, like to build into. You just have to, like, it's different from the other game. Like, this side is all blueprints. So you can build like a platform. I mean, maybe I should have tried to do that. But I think there's like some shelters and stuff here. But if you want to build other stuff, yeah, I think he's gonna get it when it comes out on PlayStation. I think Tree was saying the same thing. But it's not out yet for PC. But yeah, these are the ones you have to like auto build yourself, you know, like this. I haven't built this yet. And I think there's a way to build like an electric one, which is cool. Which I kind of want to try to do. Maybe I could try. Maybe I could start building that like kind of out here or something. I know there's a way to build an electric fence in this game. I don't know if they had that in the last one. I thought that was a mutant for a minute. I mean, it is, but she's a friendly one. So like, you have to look at the picture and then like go in here and get like a stick and then put it in the ground like. Oh, there you go. There's the fence. I feel like maybe it's not even worth building because they're gonna just knock that thing down. But then there might be electric fence in here already. You gotta find blueprints in some of the caves and stuff, and then see here's where it's telling you how to build that kind of stuff. But I've been having some problems with it. It gets all skewed sometimes. Window shutters. Yeah, here it is. So you need a solar panel and wire. I think I put all the solar panels up there already. But yeah, the building's a little different. It took me a little while to figure it out, like what it was talking about. I was mad for a little bit because I kept pulling this book up and I was like, man, why won't it, like, what button do I press to, like, I was trying to click on this stuff. Like, man, what button am I supposed to press to, like... But yeah. Yeah, for sure. It would never hurt to have more builders. More people building makes it go faster. Oh, what is that? I haven't seen that thing before. Look at that thing. He's messing up my fence. What is that? That thing is huge. Oh, shit. He just... Oh, shit. Don't blow up my cart. No! No! I need that. Oh shit, I'm on fire. Oh shit! That took away 2 armors. No! Oh my lord. I'm about to be out of arrows, man. Look how many arrows are in that thing. Alright, stay away from me. Give me... Oh, he died. Okay, finally, dude, what? Alright, man, hopefully he gives me 3 creepies. Cause that... That thing was... Oh, he gave me 2. Alright, whatever. I think I have 3, actually. That thing, man. Bro. Give me my arrows. No more arrows? Man. Oh, that thing was crazy. Alright, that's our last energy bar. Man, I never seen that one. That's a new one. Maybe we need some traps in here. I was gonna put like some storage stuff and everything. Alright, man, get some logs and fill this thing up. That was crazy. Oh, give me that. Oh, man. I wonder if that electric fence would have got him. Okay, whatever. I mean, it's coming along, but I'm gonna need some more space. I'll probably put some more shelves in there. Day 33. Yeah, they do. They do, like, you gotta sleep. I already cut them down again. I mean, I think it's like an option. You can turn it on and off and whatever. But can we get this to go? This crooked ass floor. Oh! Surprised that didn't hurt. I need to put a floor there. Something. That was a long drop. I think I'm supposed to go find this, like, next maintenance bunker somewhere. I thought it said it put it on my GPS, but I couldn't tell. Like, last time I went to go look, I ended up going to one that I had already been to. Man, okay. How can we do this? Okay. That's something, I guess. This thing's gonna be crazy though, huh? Like a house that goes over the side of the hill. Oh shit. Now we got these cave mutants coming. Oh man, they're everywhere too. Man, that trap just like exploded that guy. Oh shoot! He came flying. I think he just hit the other one. Why is he not dying? Oh shoot. He's like green. Oh no. Oh, finally. What is she doing, dude? She's supposed to be blasting. Well, I gave her the shotgun. Oh, there she goes. Whoa! You got acrobatic. That's crazy, man. Okay, okay. Okay, great. That's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. Man, what is this thing, dude? Oh, man. Oh, they give you creepy armor. What? I guess that's why they're so hard to kill. But that other one didn't... I guess you can't kill them with traps and get armor. They just explode into like meat. Oh well. I don't know. I've been for how long have I been streaming right now? Yeah, I mean maybe like 15, 20 minutes more, and then I'll probably watch some people and do the whole, you know, trying to help other people out thing. Why, you about to get on soon? Or are you about to go do something? I might work too. I might work on my Discord a little bit. I need to really set that thing up. Me and Tree were talking a little bit yesterday about. Yeah, but you about to stream in a little bit or what? Yeah, I sent you a whisper too to see if you'll send me a link to your Discord. I don't think I joined your Discord server yet. Oh, appreciate it. Oh, did you? There's just too many notifications or what? I mean, I have Discord, but I turned off the notifications on my phone. That shit was just way too much. I know you can like set it per server. I'll probably go back and try to like figure that out at some point, but yeah, I deleted a bunch too. I was on like, you know, from when I was streaming before, I was on probably like 20 different people's Discords, and it was just unmanageable, really. What do you mean, like being a mod and all that, or just Discord in general? But you're still streaming and like still a mod on his stream and everything? Or what's up? What are you thinking? Oh, just Discord. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I feel you. I have the same shit. I go through these cycles of like being real motivated and not being motivated at all. I hate it. I wish I was just constantly motivated. Oh man. Seriously, I didn't put a floor there. Yeah, I got you, yeah. Yeah, I messed around with some other stuff. Yeah, I hear you, Tree, yeah. I'm about to be right behind you next year. I'm gonna start working back on my economic stuff. Yeah, for sure. What else would you do, Pinky, besides like trying to keep on streaming and everything? You have any other like goals or ideas for what you're trying to do for like side hustle or any of that kind of stuff? Why is this like this, dude? don't know. Wait, something was. What was that? Oh, okay. Like, why can't I? Maybe if I put this here first, it'll let me do it. Oh, like do like a little show or like a podcast or something? That sounds like a cool idea. I've never seen anybody doing that before. I mean, there might be somebody doing it, I just don't know about it, but it's new to me. It's a new idea to me. Oh yeah. Um, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, it's like, and it's like a trade school too, right, Tree? Like, it's different, like credit hours or something, or is it normal? There's a bunch of them around here. I know, like the whole medical, um, like medical assistant, medical billing, and medical like stuff is real big out here. And they got like a school where I used to go to my therapist at. The bottom floor was like always full of these like nursing students or whatever. Oh shit! And now it won't let me take it down. This. Man, what? Is it because of that or what? Hmm. Alright, I got an idea. Is it this size or smaller? I think it's this size. Oh, wow. Wait. Maybe that's how we can straighten some of this stuff out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. What do you mean, who's she? That crazy girl walking around with the shotgun, or are you talking about Tree? Oh yeah, she's like a mutant. After like a day or two, she comes and like starts hanging around you. Sometimes she's like kind of annoying. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. But she starts like bringing you stuff. She's like she's she's this girl. Hold on, look. I found her the lore and stuff isn't that great in these. Yes, Kiko. Oh yeah, it's hers. This is her. I guess this device that these like cult people were worshiping and like I think this goes back to like the 1800s, the lore in these games. But like they activated this thing and it like there's like this cube you can get inside of, and if you're on the outside, like you get and you're near it, when it gets activated, you turn into a mutant. So she got turned into a mutant. Her family basically bought this island. They're like part of this like evil pharmaceutical company. But yeah, basically that's who she is. Yeah, but you're smart, Tree. Like you'll be all right in there. I feel like a lot of the people that are going to, at least like the like what I was talking about in my therapist office and everything. I know that's different. Nursing is a little more intensive than like medical assistant and all that stuff. But I feel like a lot of those people are, you know, they're they have to work a lot harder, to comprehend stuff and like study and retain information and everything. I feel like you'll be all right. I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm just saying there's a lot of like David Goggins type people, that where he was saying he had to like write down everything from that ASVAB study guide so he could memorize it. When the point he got to the test where he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that from page 12." Yeah, yeah. I have the same problem. I get like totally bored and just like over it with shit, Where I'm just like, man, fuck this, dude. I'm just gonna like hibernate for a while. It really sucks. I hate it. I hate it that I'm like that. I know a lot of these guys like in the whole like, success, how to be successful sphere. And like health and wellness, they deal with that stuff a lot too. But I know a lot of those dudes are always talking about like discipline and self-discipline and habits and routine and everything. And I've tried all that shit. I mean, and it works. Like when I'm doing it, like I feel great. But it's still it's like it's almost something like it doesn't matter how much willpower you have. It doesn't matter how like you know what I mean? It's just like I feel like something comes over me and I just feel like the need to purge everything and like just kind of take a break from like adulting, or whatever. Like it's not even adulting. It's just like I need to take a break from everything. Like I need to chill for a little while and like rest. And I even like stopped taking vitamins. I stopped talking to people. It's like it's not healthy. In some ways it's really not healthy, but I feel like in some way it's like it's so like deeply it's coming from a place where I can't really control it consciously. You know what I mean? It's something like subconscious to where it's like I have to do it. So there must be some kind of like need. I don't know if it's like physiological or whatever, but there's some kind of, or it's just purely psychological, but there's some kind of need for me to like quit doing shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think they call it bipolar, but but yeah. But the thing is, though, like I wasn't like that when I was younger. For like all through my 20s and until I had like some traumatic shit happen in my life, I was never like that. You know what I'm saying? And I know like with that, some people like get like late onset stuff or whatever in their later 20s or whatever. But I don't know. It just trips me out to think that like I was kind of like a fucking machine when I was younger. Might just be part of being younger too, You just don't get tired. But yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing. It's like a cyclical thing. I think everybody has it to some extent too. That's what I was like telling all the therapists and like psychologists and stuff, that all that shit I've been through, that like it's not like I'm against getting some kind of diagnosis like that or whatever, which I haven't been really. I don't know. But that I have questions about it, you know? It's like, why was it like that, and like um, what like what you were saying, that I feel like everybody's like that to some extent. It's just like some people are more extreme than others, and it's more like a spectrum, where it's like a lot of people have like basically like subclinical levels of that or whatever. You know, it's like you can be neurotic or whatever, but not like fully, like, you know, like having panic attacks and anxiety. But I don't know. I've had a hard time finding a good therapist, because it seems like most of them, they just want to follow their like very specific like American standardized psychology training, like CBT, which is what it usually is. Which again, I'm not saying like CBT is like a bad thing or it's useless, but it's just not always. It's not the whole picture of like how psychology works, and I really like disagree a lot with their underlying premise, is that like they kind of like you know, and all of it, like with the capitalism shit and all that, it's like it all ties into that, because it's all like the science stuff and everything, because the insurance companies will only fund therapies that are data backed, and CBT is one of the few that's like data backed with all these studies and shit that they can say like this actually gets results, because otherwise they don't want to pay for it, right? They don't want to pay for you to sit around and like do some like Freudian or like Lacanian whatever shit, like other psychotherapy methods that they use in other countries and stuff, because they think you're just sitting around talking and wasting time, basically. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, where it's like it basically makes you unable to function. But then again, like my argument with that to them was that like I feel like the society and the system that we've created is so like far from how we evolved to operate, you know? Like we grew up like in the fucking woods and in the jungles and shit, like surviving in small tribes. Like that's what our brains and our bodies are adapted to, you know? I know there's been like some changes or whatever over the last even few thousand years or whatever, but what I'm saying is like I feel like the socioeconomic situation that we've put ourselves in is actually making people sick, because and you're saying like if people can't function in that system, then it's a disorder, but the system itself is like disorderly. You know what I mean? It's like we want people to be like these, like always happy, always productive, always motivated, successful, like knocking out your goals, like that kind of shit. And if you're not doing that, it's like something's wrong with you. If you're not making a bunch of money and like doing, you know, whatever like the people value in modern society, which is basically that, like wealth accumulation and like social standing and whatever. Which I mean, like all that stuff, I guess, is kind of based in the tribal shit too. But like, it's still, I feel like it's kind of like unnatural, all this shit that we're doing. And then we're trying to say that like, oh, if you can't like function like a robot and be like a worker automaton and be happy about it and want to work for free and just get the experience and the knowledge and like do the best job you can, and, like no matter what, even if your kids are sick and you can't pay for their medical expenses or whatever, then you're like fucked up somehow. And I feel like that's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So like I get it too, but like what I was saying about the CBT is is that, oh shit, I need to eat some shit. What I was saying about the CBT is that like the underlying, like the foundational premise of CBT is that like when you're thinking things like that, maybe like what I was saying, like the world is fucked up. Oh shit, here comes a fucking crazy guy. That these are distorted thoughts. You're having like distortions of reality that are untrue. You're like seeing reality in a way that is like pessimistic or negative, and that they want to like train you to replace those thought distortions with you know, like seeing the truth about the world. And I mean, like I was saying, I feel like sometimes that can have some truth to it, but I feel like at the same time, like sometimes really depressed, mentally unhealthy people are seeing the world more realistically than optimistic people, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a reason that people with like really high IQ and education tend to be more depressed, like on average, than people who are oblivious to that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, I'm not saying it's bad, and I know it like it can be helpful and help people. Like especially, I think it might even, I don't know, I don't know the numbers on any of that stuff, but you know, I think it might be certain stuff like kind of like how the SSRIs are. It's like they just throw SSRIs at everybody, these antidepressants, and they don't really work, and sometimes they make people worse. They work for like people who are super depressed and they have like deeply ingrained chemical imbalances from birth and stuff, you know. But for just most normal people, they don't really have that effect. And I think CBT is kind of similar. It's like it's probably more applicable for people who have like, you know, like really fucked up delusions and shit. I'm not sure, you know. I'm just like speculating, but I do know that like that there's like cases like in history of leaders being more effective when they have mental disorders, like during times of crisis and stuff, because they're able to navigate those like it's kind of like I was saying with COVID, like when COVID happened and everybody started getting depressed and the world started getting real dark kind of, it I started feeling like oh shit, I was like, oh well, welcome to my world, like maybe I can help you here. Oh shit, oh that guy just speared me. Yeah, I know that's I know like it's that designed for that, and that's what they say, and that's why it's like probably one of the most common, if not the most common, like therapy practices in the United States. But like that's what I'm saying is like I question that. And again, I don't really know, but yeah. I mean, it might help some people like as a kind of stepping stone, but it's not like on its own. It's not just gonna like magic bullet anything. The SSRIs. But yeah, there's some other ones, but a lot of them are like offshoots of CBT, like DBT and different stuff. But whatever, like I was just saying, like it's been hard for me to find a therapist because a lot of them they want to, you know, it's kind of a weird dynamic. I can understand like the client, like professional client relationship kind of thing, and they want to like present themselves in a certain way, but to me like that is like kind of a turnoff for me, where it's like it feels like it puts kind of a barrier between us, and it was like I want to I'm not looking for somebody to tell me what's wrong with me or whatever. It's like, I don't know exactly how all of it, like, I'm trying to figure it out, like what is going on with me and how it all works. And I don't know how it works, but I don't think they know how it really works either. 'Cause it's like, you know, not to like disparage their like education or, you know, say that I'm smarter than them. I'm not trying to like be adversarial with them at all. I'm more of like looking for a partnership, like somebody to be honest and like explore that with me instead of just like, you know, go through some like preset. Even when I'll ask them about that stuff too, like what are we doing? You know, like what's the program? Like what? Theirs was insisting you did the CBT when seeing him. Oh yeah. So you had a good experience with it? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've really tried to give it a chance. Like, it's always like some weird shit too, you know. Like, one guy told me he didn't want to talk to me anymore. He fired me basically. One guy like, when I was finally just like, you know, dude, I'm really just gonna like try to. Oh, this guy's got a spear in his leg. I was like, I'm just gonna try to like let it run its course and see how it goes. That guy like he ended up moving to like a different like healthcare organization, you know. So, and I should probably like start looking for a new person. I haven't really. I need to. I've just been dealing with like all the Navy administrative crap and everything. I was I watched a documentary on Netflix a while back that Jonah Hill produced about his therapist. You know, all that crazy stuff with him, like weaponizing therapy speak to like, you know, fight with his supposedly like be like verbally, emotionally abusive to his girlfriend or something or whatever was later. It was before all that shit, but he produced this documentary about his therapist, and his therapist like kind of laid out his whole like approach and his ideas and his like what he's trying to do with people and how he thinks it works and his like terminology and everything. And I thought it was really cool, and I was talking to one of my buddies who's he's been a therapist for a long time. He's a child therapist, but he's like, I think he's actually working on his PhD right now. But he was telling me that it sounds like what you're looking for is like that's going to be really hard to find through insurance. That's what I was talking about, the insurance shit. Because he was saying like you could find that really easily, like through what Jonah Hill was doing, like through a private practice. Because there you can sign an agreement with your provider that says like basically you're not going to sue them. But if he was like, the reason they might be reluctant to like explain how stuff works to you is because if they say something that basically like, you know, we're gonna like heal you, we're gonna fix you, and you get the idea that like, you know, they're gonna make your life all better and all that stuff, then you can sue them. So like, they're not really supposed to like tell you or promise you anything or whatever, but and they're supposed to like follow their program or whatever. But he was saying that if you go to private practice, like they can do whatever they want. You know, so unfortunately, unfortunately that shit costs a lot of money. So Experience was okay. Yeah, you told me about that before. My nurse therapist wanted some sort of CBT where you recounted the most traumatic things that happened to you through writing. Okay. I've been in therapy for like 4 years, so you're still, whatever. It took 6 weeks. Yeah. That's cool. And I get it too. Like sometimes it's maybe like, you know, basically what we're doing. You know, it's like, how do you troubleshoot a human? Like it's just kind of like trial and error. Sometimes maybe it just takes a while, and it's like, but that's what I was saying. Like if they told me like that that's what's happening, it's like, you know, we're just trying stuff and seeing if something works like that, I would be totally good with that. I've never had a therapist say something like that to me. I still can't believe that guy fired me, dude. That shit was that's wild. You know what's funny though is maybe because they're not constrained by like the same kind of stuff, but like I've had 2 different psychiatrists who were like, they were like better therapists than any of my therapists. Like I had, at least like, you know, from what you were saying, like you really like your therapist. Like I really liked my psychiatrist, so I really enjoyed talking with them and interacting with them. So I felt like I got more therapy out of talking to them about stuff than I did out of my therapist. I felt like they were like maybe listening to me more genuinely or something. Because it's like with most of the therapists I had, it's like it's almost like seems almost like when somebody's like, if they're like trying to like prove to you that they're listening, you know, it's like, let me show you how well I'm listening to you. You know, give me 1 sec. Okay, I'm back. Yeah. I'm gonna do that like the last I'm gonna look this girl up too when I get out of the Navy because she was awesome. This psychiatrist that I had, that she left also, so I can't see her anymore. But she because she worked at like a one of the Navy clinics, and so she left there. But she was telling me before that she runs a clinic outside of the Navy, like a private one, or like, I mean, it's open to everybody, whatever, and they take insurance and shit. But she does like a ketamine therapy and stuff there. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I know, like, cause I know a little bit about Piaget. I've never heard of this other guy, but um, like I know Piaget did a lot of child development stuff, which ties into like some of the stuff we were talking about. But from what I know of him, like, it wasn't ringing a bell like some of the stuff you were talking about. The like ideal, like the ideas you were talking about of his. So that makes sense. Man, when you guys get this game, dude, I'm gonna have this base set up so crazy. Like, you guys could come on my server. This would be like a Minecraft server, dude. We're gonna take over this whole island. Just have bases everywhere. Mega bases. With solar power. I got this, like, look at this thing. Look at this thing. There's more of these around the island. I should, like, go walk and get some and bring them back here so you guys can have them. Like a... It's like a little... It's like a little, look at it. It's like a little electric unicycle thing. It's badass. But yeah, she was telling me to look on Psychology Today and like find somebody. Oh, you're linking an article about those guys though. Well, let me get off of this thing. Yeah, let me look at that. Let me save that for later. Oh, okay, good. Shit. I just realized I didn't. I have this on Facebook too, and I wasn't like checking the chat on there. Oh yeah, this is interesting. I'd like to read more about this guy. I think I'm gonna do that here in a little bit. I'm gonna like lurk around on Twitch and stuff too, but I'm gonna take off here in a minute and go meet Alejandra, and then we'll probably do something. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go on Psychology Today and try to find some weirdo therapist that I can vibe with. Like, I don't mean weirdo in a bad way. I mean like similar weirdness to me. My kind of weird. This thing's starting to take shape a little bit. This is a lot of work, though. Look at this. Look at this. What's in the can? Raw cat food. Nice. You ever been through any of that stuff, Pinky? Maybe it's not cool to ask that. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. Right? Yeah, cooked cat. That's what I was saying too when I first saw it. I was like, is there cooked cat food? Like, do you cook it? I think you just give it to them. I guess I can eat that too. Man, I'm telling you, it's like everybody nowadays, you know? That's what I was saying about the, like, the way shit is nowadays, and people talk about, like, digital culture, where it's like, who was saying that? Somebody was saying, maybe it was just some random person's, like, Instagram profile I was looking at earlier that they were saying, it was like a Q&A they were doing, and somebody asked them, like, I don't know, like what's one thing you would change or something like that. I don't know. One of those kind of questions, but They were basically saying that, like, building community, because that's what I'm always talking about. And like, I know you never heard me talk about it much, Pinky, but I, like Tree knows, I always talk about the tribe and building the tribe and like, I mean, I was kind of talking about it earlier with like tribalism shit, but like he said, building community because like we're more connected now than ever, but we're also more like disconnected than ever. And I hear people saying stuff like that all the time. It's like communication wise, we're able to like communicate and interact with people more easily than ever before, but we're also like we feel more like lonely and isolated and shit than ever before. Alright, dude. I'm putting a floor there. I'm done falling through that hole right there. That's crazy, Tree. Yeah, I never, like, I think my daughter's kind of like that. Like, she gets, like, I think it's my fault, really, because, you know, I was like, I've been a single parent forever, and I always get stressed out and, like, overwhelmed. It's like, oh, shit. And she would, like, it would scare her, you know, when she's little, really little. And so she would try to, like, work to, like, make me not, you know, freak out. Like I think her anxiety kind of like gets her into action or whatever, which is not healthy. But at least like, you know, you can channel it for for good. I'm the other way though. I get crippled. I get like I just get like, fuck, dude, I don't want to do shit. I can't, that's the problem though, is I can't put a floor there, right? It's like not letting me, because there's no support beams. Yeah, there's some good, I've seen some really good ones though. I know they're like a meme nowadays, but yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Wait, you know what I'm gonna try to do? Like, I think that one's too small. I think you need a half. I forgot that I like figured this out earlier, right? Oh, but these are uneven because this. Wait. No, I can't take that one out. This shit is wild. Yeah, it really does. Yeah, yeah. There's like there's some shit I don't agree with. Like this guy, he's a, I don't know if you know him, but Robert Sapolsky. It's like a neuro-linguist, I think, Stanford. But he wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. We even talk about that in the Navy a lot too, like stress management and like elimination of stress and whatever. Like, you know, like some stress, some level of stress is good. It's like no stress is, you're just gonna like wither away. Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's kind of like an archetype or something. You know, like it's like a. I've been like that forever too. Like I would over prepare and like I'm like a perfectionist. You know, I was a perfectionist with shit. But like when it came time to like take the test or turn in the project or turn in the paper or whatever, my teacher, like whoever, like was always like, "Damn, what the fuck, dude? Like you, this is like incredible." You know, like I think that's why I like killed it so hard in the Navy for the first 5 years, just because I was like that. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think you'll be all right. Like just like knowing what I know about you, like your personality and everything. I don't know if it's gonna let me like do this. There. I don't think so. Oh well. I think I'm about ready to. I think I can take this. Like if you put those, like it lets you remove some, like a support beam or something. I really wish I could. Maybe I can do it right here. Maybe it'll let me put a floor right here. No. Okay. Yeah, night tree. Hopefully talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, shit. Alright, Pinky, I think we did some good work. Oh shit, I just fucked myself up again. I have to take some medicine. I think we did some good work on the MEGABASE today. Oh no! What is this, dude? What's happening over here? Can't be having this. We're gonna have to take care of this problem first. Oh man, those things did like nothing to those guys. Oh no! Oh, all these are down. Oh no! Leave me alone. Oh no! Oh no! These things are so crazy. Oh! Oh, that one's on fire. Why are these not doing anything to these guys? Oh, he got me. Oh, she's blasting him. Oh she got one. She got two of them. Yeah, the great thing about giving her a gun is like well, first of all, you don't even have to aim. She just aims, like auto aims, but you get bullets, and like whenever you shoot, it uses bullets, but whenever she shoots, it doesn't use any bullets. But there was more. Where's the rest of them? Oh, good. They're all dead or what? Nice. We got a lot of armor now. Man, we need some better traps if these big guys are going to be coming. Why they died like that? Alright, let's fix this real quick. And then put this stuff away, and then we'll jump off. I don't know what else. I think we're good. No, it's all good. Appreciate it. I need to I was talking with Tree yesterday about like making some plans, you know, to like set some milestones, goals, not like follower goals and stuff. I mean, maybe that too, but like you know, for like building up the stream, like making a schedule, you know, adding like a different bot, or like adding some kind of like different features, or updating something on my stuff or whatever. I'm gonna start working on that shit. But I appreciate you coming. Yeah, if I get a schedule going, then like you'll have a better idea whenever I'm gonna try to stream. But yeah, I appreciate you, Pinky. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, you guys are the best. Like, yeah, we should talk more for sure about all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll hit you up soon. If you get on stream later too, I'll see. I'll keep an eye on Twitch and everything. See if you're on. Yeah, have a good night.